and welcome to Framed
Canvas, cuffs,
and other stuffs. This podcast is about crime.
And art.
And our crime.
Wake up. Pay attention.
We've got art.
And it's juicy.
Hello, Joel.
Hi.
It's been a minute.
I know.
What a time.
I've grown a beard. You've grown a mustache.
I've grown a mustache. All is right in the world.
Yes.
What's been happening?
A few things here and there.
Yeah.
I've got something in the bank for like what we've done arty this week. So I got an art job.
Sorry, what?
Well, I got someone reached out to me to create something for them.
Yeah.
And it was for a yoga studio. Even though I'd previously done their kind of rebrand and then they were rebranding again. So they reached out to me to continue doing them. So I got to flex my little arty muscles. And
I love it.
yeah.
What did you do?
I had to do like the brief was kind of, there was like a meditation pose, a massage, chanting, I think it's called.
Chanting.
Yeah, like real yoga-y stuff. And it's stuff that I'd never had to draw before. So it was quite a challenge. I'm like, well, how do I mold my style of art to suit a yoga business?
Yes.
Because it's a lot of body poses and stuff like that and things that I've never done before. And I can barely draw hands as it is.
And no artist can draw hands.
So they reached out, they booked me again, and that's what I did.
I love it.
Paid job. Hey.
Yes. And where can we find it if we want to see it?
It's called Vedic Yoga.
Okay, cool.
So if you're a yoga head, if you type in Vedic Yoga Melbourne or something like that, you'll see my artworks come up on the website and whatnot. So shout out to my friends at Vedic Yoga for trusting in me.
What am I going to recommend?
Yeah, what's arty with you?
Well, just got back from Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no shit. Honestly, like if you're going to Japan, there's so much art over there. And there is so much Keith.
Yeah.
So fitting for the hat. There's so much, Yoyoi's opened a museum over there, Team Labs. There's so much good shit at the moment. And just go and see the art because they've got way more than we do.
Did anything significant happen while you were away? Like maybe at a gallery or something like that?
Well, at the Keith Haring exhibition that we went to, the first one, which was 2 hours out of Tokyo. It's the biggest private collection of Keith. Mm-hmm. This guy from the pharmaceuticals just bought up all of Keith in like the 80s and smart man and made a gallery in the middle of nowhere, which is beautiful. One of the best art galleries I've ever been to, actually. It's stunning. While we were in there, my partner SJ said, do you want to get married? And I said, sure. So we got engaged, which is very exciting. So now I'm a real taken woman.
You are.
It's only been, 11 years?
Yes. So, good on you, SJ.
Good job, SJ.
Yeah, it took your time. But it couldn't have happened, I don't think, in a more perfect setting.
Perfect spot. Japan amongst the Keith.
Yeah. Worth the wait.
Yeah. And then obviously we walked through and all of Keith's penis works were around and a big giant butt plug pretty much in the garden area. It was like a sculpture and I was like, that's a butt plug.
Fabulous.
So it really was fitting.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe I feel a bit rusty coming back into podcasting. I'm like, we haven't done this in a minute.
Yes, and so much has happened.
I know.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. So much has happened. Yes. But should we talk about some crimes?
Oh, yeah, if you want.
Why not? Some art crimes. We've done a lot of heists.
Yes.
We've done a lot of heists. We're now going to go into the world of forgeries.
Fabulous.
Because there's some out there.
Yeah. Lots.
There's lots.
Yeah.
Probably more than we know. Mm-hmm. It's in the autumn of 1995.
Oh, Nirvana. No doubt. Pokemon. So it's 1995 and out of the blue, a woman contacts Scotland Yard. And this would set off a chain of events that would change the art world pretty significantly. Right.
Let's leave this woman. Mm-hmm. She's made her call, but not long after that, in a quiet suburb of Stratham, I believe that's how it's pronounced in England, on an autumn morning, the stage was set for an extraordinary event. It was October 20th. In a tranquil neighbourhood, an unexpected visitor was arriving on the doorstep of John Myatt. It was the law. The law had come a-knocking. It was 6 a.m. and John was lying in bed, oblivious to what was about to unfold.
6 a.m.
6 a.m. like of all times. Come on,
on.
coppers. Do it at any other time. Really loud knock on the door, and he looked out the window, and there was about 10 coppers there.
Not 10 coppers.
Not 10 coppers. Oi, shine me shoes, Gabner.
Oi, oi, oi.
Oi, oi, oi. And they all just walked in with their little hats. Oi, 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 oi. So he got up, he went down, and he was like, my heart is pounding. He knew something was about to unfold. The jig was up. But
I love that phrase. The jig is
was
up.
I wonder where
I don't quite get what it means, but I love saying
Where
it.
does it come from? Is it actual jigging?
What's a jig?
The jig was up because Scotland Yard's esteemed arts and antiquities squad had come to his home to uncover the truth behind a tangled web of art forgery that had ensnared the unsuspecting art world. And as the officers ascended the stairs, their eyes fell upon an Alberto Giametti. Yes, I think that's it. Silent C, Giametti painting hanging on the wall. A damning clue that they had indeed found their man.
Right. And it was the real painting.
It was a fake painting.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But
Spoiler.
it was said to be we'll get into it, but it's a fake painting.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about this scheme. You're not going to have to work out who has done it this time, Joel, but maybe we'll ask you a few questions on what you would do in this situation.
Yeah.
What do you know about art forgeries? Is there anything that you know about them?
I don't know of any like major ones, but I know that kind of when you go to markets and things like that, you'll see a lot of, duplicates and replicas and all that kind of stuff where they might not have the rights to exactly be like selling that print. But in regards to someone being like, no, this is the actual piece.
Yeah.
Even though it's not.
Yeah. So
I don't know much about.
Yeah. So you can duplicate work, and that's fine if you say like this is a fake.
Yeah.
Like there's some weird like grey
Like it's a
area.
copy, it's a
you're
print.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I've copied this master, I've done this, like it's not real. But I guess where the line gets crossed is when you say, no, this is a real painting.
Yeah.
There is less and less of this happening, I guess, as science evolves. So as science evolves, we get more tech to be able to like look at paintings in a different way.
Yeah.
But in the 80s and 90s, it was less of a thing because the science wasn't there. So as we get more into tech, it's like you can actually like X-ray a painting, see what's underneath, work out all where the paint comes from. But in this case, the tech wasn't there. So they had very little to go off at the start.
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s, obviously, the world witnessed a surge in forgery because there was a booming art market, and we all know where the money goes, crime will follow. As prices of renowned artworks skyrocketed, so did counterfeits. And to produce convincing replicas, this saw an emergence of skilled forgers like John Myatt. They were exploiting kind of this chink in the armor where they were like, okay, we can see this opportunity to create these paintings and like make
Pass
a
them
lot
off
of
as,
money.
Yeah.
The way previously they'd kind of worked out like if a painting was from the real master or not is they do this thing called provenance. It's like a fancy word of saying like catalog essentially.
Yeah.
So provenance is like a documented history of an artwork and will show ownership of an artwork of where it traveled, where it might have landed, and like where it was sold. So provenance is kind of like the global understanding that, you know, I'm buying this piece of art and I have assurance that it's legit because it's of provenance. It's just a fun word.
Tracking.
It's got tracking.
Yeah.
It's got a tracking number.
Yeah.
It's also a fun word to say. It was challenging, though, of establishing provenance. So as forgeries became more sophisticated, provenance became more important. Even with these safeguards, the art world remained like vulnerable to manipulation. And forgers like Myatt would be able to maybe fabricate some of these things. Let's talk about two Johns. There's two Johns in this story. There's John Myatt and there is John Drewe.
Oh, God, I'm so confused.
I'll say Drewe and Myatt from now on.
Yes.
We'll leave the Johns behind.
Perfect.
Let's talk about Drewe first. Drewe was a man of many masks. At the age of 17, he dropped out of school and reinvented himself. He changed his last name from Cockett to Drewe, as you would, at a 17-year-old. He then also got a job at the British Atomic Energy Authority and said, I've got a PhD in physics. So he worked with them for a few years. Guess what? he didn't have a PhD in physics.
The sneaky bugger.
Sneaky bugger. So he resigned from that role when they found out. And there is kind of like 15 years where he disappeared. But obviously he was doing some shady business because this man is a con man.
Yeah.
He's a con man through and through. But by 1980, he resurfaced. He charmed his way into the life of a wealthy Israeli expat. Her name is, and I apologize if I butcher this, Bathsheba Goldsmith. Bathsheba, what a name.
Bathsheba.
Oh, I just want to be her because she sounds like just all elegant. And also she's wealthy, so I feel like that really plays into her role as
shout out to Melbourne drag queen Bathsheba.
She moves in with him. Obviously, he gets his hand a little bit on her money. He lied to her and said, hey, I'm this like atomic energy authority. I'm an aerospace board member. I'm part of the Ministry of Defense.
What specific things to be lying about? Wouldn't you go for something a bit easier?
Easier, like I'm a doctor.
More believable?
I'm a doctor. I've got surgeries to do.
Yeah.
No, I'm in space. I mean, you're probably not asking too many questions about it.
Well, true.
He was actually just a physics teacher at a high school at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's lying because he shouldn't be a physics teacher at the high school. But
he knows some physics lingo to get himself out of any sticky situations.
Obviously a very charming man. He's charming his way into all of these situations. So that's Drewe, John Drewe.
Yes.
Let's talk about John Myatt.
Okay.
He's the son of a farmer, and he actually discovered his talent for mimicking other artists when he went to art school. So he realized he was quite good at creating and like duplicating other people's work.
Kind of takes the whole thing out of being a creative.
Yeah.
Because it's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, it's weird. He really got good at that. And like when you listen to interviews with him, he's quite like, he makes it sound like a bigger thing than it really is. He's like, I'm in the mind of the artist. Like,
I mean, it would be kind of tricky to duplicate,
works for sure. He did not realize at the time that this skill would lead him to infamy. After that, he became a recording artist. I know, his weird life. He became a recording artist, but when he was working at this record company, the owner of the record company had a lunch with the owner of Sotheby's. The owner of Sotheby's had purchased two very expensive paintings for like $200,000 a pop, and this guy had come in and he's like, he's bought these two paintings. I want to show him up. I want to buy more paintings than him. It was like, whose dick is bigger energy.
Yeah.
And Myatt,
I wonder what kind of music he was recording.
I think he was doing like piano and stuff like that. Like apparently he had a hit, but I'm like, I've never heard of it. Like,
for some reason my head was going like George Michael or something like that. Like
no, I
pop
think
star vibes.
No, I think it was very behind the scenes, doing little bits and bobs. So he was like, oh, well, if you want these paintings, I could just paint them for you. It was just happenstance that he heard this. And the guy was like, okay. So he went away. He did these two paintings, gave them to him. The guy paid him like £200 a painting. And he was just like, as long as they're bigger than the other guys, I'm fine. So he's like, okay, cool. So he made those paintings. He made a little bit of money. And at the time, his wife had left him. He had two kids he was bringing up by himself. And he was like, well, I need the money. So he put a ad in the paper there called I think it was called The Private Eye. Such a silly name.
The Private Eye.
The Private Eye. It's a very like 1920s fast talking, like
extra.
Yeah. Little ad there that said genuine fakes, 19th and 20th
Genuine fakes.
Yeah, I know.
Love it.
Genuine fakes, 19th and 20th century paintings from £150. I want to stay at home with my kids. I can do this through painting paintings. And honestly, some people like contacted him and was like, yeah, okay, let's get some genuine fakes happening.
I can see why. Like, because not everyone can have these artworks or have the money to do it, but you're getting essentially the next best thing.
Like in my world, if I could own an original, that would be lovely. I'd love to own an Andy Warhol original, but it's just not going to happen.
No. And if you can get like something just exactly the same.
And I'm not.
Then you get morals and all that kind of stuff. Like,
but I guess if you're
buying, Andy will never know. He'll never find out,
or he'll haunt you.
Yes,
which I'm okay with.
That's not my painting.
Just smoking a cigarette. Don't shoot me though. He kind of was just mulling along doing that until one day he received a phone call. It was a pretty standard phone call. Myatt was like, it just began like any other, the guy said, I've seen your ad. Are you able to do a painting like Matisse? And Myatt was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. He said, who are you? I'm Professor Drewe. Mm-hmm. Okay, Professor, it's a present for my wife. Mm-hmm. The guy's like, all right, that happens all the time. I'll paint you up a Matisse. Off we go. A few days later.
Oh, Professor Drewe, meaning
John.
The other John.
Drewe,
yes,
the
yes,
other
yes.
John.
Yep.
The professor, arranged to meet him. He literally banged out this Matisse in like 2 days.
Wow.
Well, I'll take a trip to London and I'll give you this painting. Essentially, they exchanged the check. Like he gave him the painting, they exchanged a check. That was kind of it. And Myatt was like, cool, I've made an extra bit of money. That's it. But then he got contacted again by Drewe and said, oh, I'd love another one.
Oh, they're falling in love.
They're falling in love. Aww. It's a slow burn. It's a really slow burn. It was over this like kind of client-painter relationship. It kind of just started innocently enough for Myatt. He was like, this guy keeps buying paintings off me. I'll keep doing my thing. I'm making $150. It's all good. I mean, at some point you've got to go like, what's he doing with all these paintings?
Yeah.
If someone's like, I'd like 7 of these one painting, you'd be like, well.
My guard would be up then.
I'd be a little
bit sus.
How many fake paintings do you want? 1, 2, that's fine.
Yeah. Of the same thing?
I think they were different things, but different artists as well.
Yeah,
so he'd ring up, request an artist, and then he'd paint it. A few days later, he'd drop it off.
Yep.
It went on till about the 6th painting, and then Myatt met Drewe's wife. He met his kids. He went to his home. So they're starting to build a relationship. Mm-hmm. This straightforward arrangement continued for 2 years. For 2 years, he's painting paintings. I'm just like, that's such a long time to paint fakes, especially because he's banging them out so quickly.
They're becoming little besties.
They're becoming friends. Got to remember, like, Drew's really charismatic. So he could talk away, like, why he was ordering all of these paintings. Yeah. At the end of this 2-year period, Drewe kind of surprised Myatt and said, well, what do you want to paint? Cubism. How about I paint you a cubism painting? And the guy's like, yeah, cool. Sounds good. And so he delivered that piece, and then it was like a personal project. He's like, okay, that's my last one. That's the last one he's going to buy. We're done. Point, spider senses would be tingling, but I guess you kind of cut your losses at that point. Yeah,
nip it in the bud.
Yeah. He said, Myatt said, had he walked away at this point, maybe this would just been a blip in his life, but it could. Because
he did this one other painting.
Because 2 weeks later, after delivering what he believed to be the final painting, John Myatt's phone rang. And on the other end was the ever-charismatic John Drewe. And he said, you know that painting you made for me? Well, I shopped it around at Sotheby's and they think it's worth £25,000. And he said, do you want to split the cash? And he's like, okay, well, they think it's a real Matisse or a real Cubism painting.
Was Drewe giving them to people saying that this is the real deal?
Well, the first few unsure. This was the first time Drewe had really picked up and said, hey, I'm selling this to an auction house.
Yeah.
He's actually gone to like Sotheby's and said, or he went to Christie's as well. So 2 of them leading like art dealers in London at the time and said, this is real. Do you think it's real? And they said, yep, we'll sell it.
Yeah.
So it's the first time that Myatt's heard like...
They might not have like asked the question. So if he's like, well, if at least they're not asking and they're willing to give me this money, they probably think that it's the real thing.
Yeah. And
also I'm not lying.
Yeah. And I think for Myatt, he's kind of like, he kind of didn't even think when he said yes to splitting the cash. He was like, oh, okay, yeah, sounds good. 12 grand would really help me out. One off, it's not really going to harm anyone.
I would do it too.
I think I would do it.
Yeah.
Like if
my smooth brain wouldn't think that far into it.
No, I'd be like, oh, it's one off. And then especially because Drew's seemingly doing the work. Myatt's just painting the painting. He hasn't done anything except paint the painting.
Like, I'm not dealing heroin here.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pretty picture.
I'll see the cash and that'll be it.
Yeah.
I would probably do it.
Yeah. So it's a soft crime.
Yeah. And you could be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've just been painting paintings this whole time. What are you talking about? He said, yep, I'll take the cash. They were pretty much off to the races after this. So the next on their list was Giametti, which we mentioned before. And like Myatt couldn't help but think, oh, my work is almost second rate. Like I'm making these copies or making these new paintings, but they're not that good. People would probably know. I think that's what he was thinking. Like people should know that these are fake because they're not amazing.
They're not like copies.
No.
There's like something a bit uncanny and off about them.
Yeah, and they're not even like proper, like at this point, I think they're not even like proper fakes. He's not copying other works. He's making new ones.
Yeah.
They've started this con. They're off to the races. They're going to do some more art, and Myatt now knows that something's up. He knows that what the paintings are getting made for.
Yes.
What do you think Drewe was doing on the other end of the line? If you're Drewe in this situation and you're trying to commit fraud on these arts, what's your reasoning? What are you doing?
I guess he must be telling people that they're the real deal.
Yeah. Like, how do you convince people that they're real is my question, you know?
Maybe because he said at the time they didn't have the science to kind of really test if they're the real deal. Because he's so smooth, he's such a smooth talker.
Smooth operator.
I think he's talking his way into making them believe that they're the actual pieces. But then are they going, well, wait, how do you have these pieces?
Are you tea staining them? Are you
burning
the edges? Like, you know how you used to make those old maps?
Treasure maps.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know how he's going about it without thinking that, my God, this looks suspicious. I'm going to get found out.
Yeah, and also like a guy just has like 200 like paintings that he's like, hey, I've got all these amazing paintings from these famous artists. Everyone's going to be like,
why do you have them? Why aren't they in galleries?
Yeah.
Being honest and saying these are exact duplicates. Do you want people to think this is the real one?
And he's getting in the art houses in on it.
Yeah.
That would be smart, actually.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it.
Let's unpack.
He was doing far more than just strolling into auction houses and saying, I've got a painting. He was a con man. So he knew that he needed to get a little bit more elaborate with these forgeries, especially if he was going to make some serious cash on them. What he would do is he'd infiltrate the archives of some of London's most prestigious galleries and museums. All galleries pretty much have like some form of provenance on site. Like it's like all of these catalogs where it was like, hey, it was in this gallery and it sold for this much, you know. So they've got these kind of catalogs dating back. So he would go in and find a catalog of defunct galleries so that were no longer around. And he'd take the catalog and he'd cut and paste, literally cut and paste and put these forged artworks in saying like, this is the real deal.
From this gallery that's not there anymore. So this is why I have them because
and like also,
the gallery shut down. Yeah, we need somewhere for these to go.
And also to be like, well, these galleries don't exist. You can't go back and check.
No.
So smart.
That is smart.
It's so smart.
That's how he did it.
That's how he's doing it. So bugger. He would literally take these catalogs, sometimes like razor out some of the pages and then take the page home, do this doctoring, go back in, paste the page back in, and then it's
glue
in.
stick.
Yeah, literally.
The one that's blue, so you can make sure you get all the edges.
Got the crazy glue out and went boo, 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 and stuck it back in, which is wild to me.
And this is all in the 90s?
This is in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s.
I know that the computery stuff wasn't, the technology wasn't as advanced back then. But this still seems a bit like crafty for people to believe that it's real.
Yeah, I agree. It's really smart to think, all right, they're going to go and look for some sort of record of these paintings. I'm going to create the record before I take it to these art dealers. So when they go and look for these records, there's the painting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It must be real.
Yeah, he's thinking
one step ahead.
Yeah.
He's created and altered hundreds of documents.
Yeah, right.
Which was blending the real and the fake paintings. So it was kind of smart that he kept the real ones in and put fake ones in and like kind of did a mishmash as opposed to just putting all fake ones in all at once. Any art historian or buyer who checked the archives found these bogus entries, which led to an air of authenticity. He was literally changing art history.
Yeah.
Which is so bizarre. At first, he wasn't really targeting minor galleries either. He really went to the creme de la creme of London's art world. He went to the Institute of Contemporary Art, the Victoria and Albert Museum and went to the Tate Modern. He was doing this at the Tate Modern.
Wait, remind me, how was he accessing these records?
Well,
because I feel like they would be
now
like locked away.
Yeah.
Security guarded.
Yeah, I don't think...
But he's just going in there with his little Stanley knife.
Yeah, I think what he'd do is he'd kind of pose as like an art dealer and he'd be like, oh, I need to go and check some things. Do you mind if I go down and check?
Curly mustache.
Yeah, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah.
And like they'd be like, oh, yeah, that seems legit. Like, what are you going to do with these archives? No one's going in there and doctoring them. Surely not.
And as we learned, the people who are working at these galleries and museums.
Rip them off the wall, Jesus.
God.
Just rip them off the wall and resell them.
All having cigarettes out the back.
They're all on break.
They're all on
the time.
break or on holidays.
Oh my God. Guess as well, he's a charmer. He's talking his way through it. Like he's being smart.
Smooth operator.
He would remove the page, put it in, return with it later, like manipulation at its finest.
Yeah.
Without anyone knowing. Whilst he was charming his way through the art world, so he'd also pose as like a patron of the arts. So with the Tate Modern, I believe he like donated like £20,000, which he would have made from fake artworks to be like, hey, I'm going to give you money for the arts.
Yes.
So it makes it easier for him to go into these archives because he's like, well, I'm a patron.
Yeah.
If I'm going to throw $20,000 at you again, you need to be treating me nicely.
Yeah. Kind of gets, it gets rid of the scent of him being suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. There was also an air of Drewe like he wanted to be a part of the elite, but he wasn't. Really trying to smooth like his way into this elite, but obviously something fishy about it was because he never really gelled with these people.
No.
He was doing his best and getting to where he needed to be, but they still saw him as an outsider, which is interesting.
Because he wasn't genuinely making his way into these
circles.
He was cutting corners and fast tracking himself there through naughty business.
He donated money, and then one of the times that Myatt was really bought into this situation was Drewe said, hey, come to me to one of these meetings. He painted these two paintings, Myatt, and he said, oh, come with me to the meeting with the Tate Modern. So they took these two paintings. He said, you can be the art consultant. And Myatt's like, okay. So he put on his nice suit, like went in with Drewe, and he watched Drewe at work schmooze these Tate Modern people into believing that these two paintings were real. He was like, I watched them do it. And then they said, yep, cool, we're going to, and they like took Myatt down and said, we're going to hang them here and here. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, that looks good. Like sweating, I imagine. Like
absolutely.
Absolutely. And he said that was like one of the first times he realized that this was a bit more of a high stakes situation than he thought. After that, he actually made those two paintings, he made Drewe get them back through another donation, and then he went and destroyed them because he said, I feel really bad about this.
Yeah, but he's like, I'm committing massive fraud
Massive fraud at this point.
I've got a hand in it. So I'm in too deep.
Yeah, he's in too deep. And now that the Tate Modern's involved as well, they've got a little bit more tech behind them to work out if paintings are real or not. Whereas like I feel like the smaller art dealers, they'll do a bit of due diligence, but at the end of the day, they're trying to make a sale.
They should have stuck to the smaller ones.
If you were to fake a painting, what steps and materials do you think you would do to make it appear like an old painting?
I don't know much about like weathering and stuff like that, because I guess you have to get like not all the colors would be as bright and poppy. You'd have to really like mix your colors so it would look like saturated a little bit. I would get some tea bags and burn the edges.
Yeah, burn the edges. God damn it, burn the edges of this frame.
I don't know, but it would be really hard to emulate something old looking.
Yeah, and I think
naturally old looking.
And there's also this thing, paints that are around now weren't around then.
Yeah.
Lead was in paint. There's all these things that were in paint or not in paint. Some colors we used was like literal mummy dust.
Yeah.
So it's like, where are you finding that now? You're not finding that in the 90s.
Mummy dust.
Hey, get a load of this mummy dust.
Do you guys have any mummy dust?
You got any mummy dust on you?
Do you guys want to party? I've got some mummy dust.
It's very like Club Kid. Like I'm imagining, what's that movie? Party Monster.
Yeah.
You want some mummy's dust? Got a bag of it.
Mama dust.
If anyone had actually taken a moment to observe Myatt's paintings, they would notice some pretty obvious flaws. All of these masterpieces he'd been churning out were created with house paint.
Oh, like poster paint?
Like
or
emulsion
like house-
paint, like house painting paint, like emulsion paint, like not oil paints.
No,
These are
Dulux.
oil. Yeah, pretty much. He's
Oh
getting
my
the
God.
Dulux, he's slapping it on the canvas, calling it a day,
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, this is an oil painting.
Yeah.
It's wild how brazen it was.
He's using Dulux.
He's using Dulux.
Yeah.
Myatt would paint the paintings. Drewe would then take them and dump like his vacuum cleaner dust over them to make them look dusty.
Oh.
It's unclear. There's a rumor.
Yeah.
It's unclear whether he might have like varnished the painting and then like done it while the painting was like slightly
Still
sticky.
sticky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to like scuff the frames up. So any frame
you
he
gotta
had, he'd
scuff the
scuff.
frames.
You gotta scuff the frame.
Yeah.
Put a little burn it up. And then he would also like so when you see the back of a painting, there's obviously little stretches at the back to keep the painting taut. He'd change them to something that's older wood. He would get the nails out of the canvases and like age them in salt water and
Yes.
then nail them back in. So he was doing
Get him a bit
more
rusty.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was
All right.
doing a little bit of like aging, I guess.
Yeah.
He also used sometimes tea to stain the paintings to make them look old.
You have to use tea.
We know this. We
Yeah.
learn it in primary school. Tea is the only way. It was kind of especially with the dust on it, it kind of made at first glance you'd be like, oh, there's dust in the back of the frame. It's old. It's been around for a while because
Yeah.
it's cemented in, I guess. In 1991, so this has been since about 85-ish, I think. Maybe less. But in 1991, a geometric painting emerged at Sotheby's that was set to sell for £300,000. So this is where it starts to get a little shaky. There is a lady in Paris, however. So there are specific people who can like authenticate paintings who like will study the master for the whole like their whole career, and when they say it's a real one or a fake one, you can almost take their word for gospel because they know so much about it.
Yeah.
Mary Lisa Palmer, she
I
said,
could go a Palmer. Yum. Mary Lisa.
Mary Lisa, good pub Palmer. She saw this painting. She said, something is not right.
Yeah.
Something is quite wrong, because she received a catalogue and she was like, hang on a second. She said, I've got to get to London. So she went to London to actually physically look at the painting. And she said, guys, I don't think this is real. And the biggest giveaway was the painting was of a female form, because all of Giametti's paintings were like weird like forms in space, like not actual space, like spaces.
Yeah.
And so the body was of
Like
a woman.
surrealism kind of stuff?
It's
Yeah.
like weird, like sketchy work.
Right.
If you're watching, I'll put a picture right here and I'll show you later. So it was like weird, like sketchy looking like bodies and stuff in like gothic-y kind of like gross, kind of makes you feel a bit uncomfortable. The
Yeah,
paintings.
right. Okay.
But the female was nude, like autonomy, but the face was male. And she was like, he would never cross the two over. It would either be a male painting or a female painting.
Not back then.
Not back then. Ooh la la. So she
We
said,
don't do gender fuck
we
back
don't
then.
do it. We don't do gender fuckery. Well, we did, but we just didn't talk about
Yes,
it.
true.
She said, guys, come on, you've got a fake. Let me take the painting for a bit and I can prove it. I've got the resources to be able to prove this is a fake. And Sotheby's said, we've had other people say it's real. So
No, listen to Palmer.
yeah,
Big Palmer.
listen to Big Palmer. She's on the case.
Yes.
She's got her suspicions. She is hunting out the traitors.
She's got her tomato sauce and cheese and crumbed chicken
Just a tiny bit of
on
drool.
top of a bed of chips.
$24.95. They said, no, we've got provenance. We know that this exists. So she said, you know what? I'm going to go to the Tate and see, look at the catalogs that this painting appears in. She goes to the Tate and she's like, guys, this is fake. Like, this clearly has been put in.
Cut and paste.
It's a cut and paste. I
Yeah.
can see the curling edges. Like, come on, guys. It's purple glue.
Oh my God. She was on it. Clever girl.
And she said, guys, someone's tampering with your archives. And they were like, nah, don't worry about it.
Come on.
Come on. We're just having a cigarette break. It's fine. She said, okay, there's provenance being done. Like, the paintings are fake, but so are the archives. And she said, all right, I'm going to go to the coppers. I'm going to tell someone about this. She kind of just disappears for a bit after that.
Yeah, okay.
No one listens to her because they want to sell these paintings.
Oh, believe women.
I know. And also, like, I think money at this point, Sotheby's isn't going to say it's not real if they can make $300,000. But it comes out a bit later, and I don't think I've got it in my notes, but the guy who ends up buying it, she tells that guy, like, don't buy it. It's fake.
Yeah.
And he's like, ah! And then he ends up buying it, and later on when it comes out, she's like, I told you. That kind of happens in 91, and then it kind of goes dead for a little bit, but they're still doing the scam. And then what happens is Myatt goes, hey, I'm going to start creating some Ben Nicholson paintings, which is just kind of like abstract colorist art. Easier to forge for them because the provenance he was from London, so the provenance would all be in London, so they wouldn't have sticky beaks from Paris coming in.
Yeah.
So they were like, let's do it here.
More room to get away with
it, which kind of in the end fucks them over. Myatt's fake masterpieces were so convincing at the time that for Ben Nicholson that they even fooled Nicholson's own son-in-law. A lot of the time he was like in the art world because of his father-in-law, but a lot of the time if a family member can authenticate a painting, a lot of the time that means like, yeah, that's real. It's weird. So
why a family member?
I don't know. Usually they're in the art world as well.
Yeah,
so
true.
It's a lot of the time you'll hear of these things where provenance isn't really there, but then they'll be like, oh yeah, that looks like the paintings he painted. That looks like something that could have been around at the time. Like it's kind of weird that we would
the original artist's son-in-law.
The original artist.
Okay,
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. I get what you mean.
Ben Nicholson's son-in-law said, yeah, this painting is legit. So he was authenticating all of these Ben Nicholson paintings that Myatt was doing, saying, yeah, that would be something that he did. While this was all happening, honestly, I think they could have gotten away with it, but Drewe, he just kept taking it to extremes.
Too far.
So Myatt's kind of like, all right, I'll keep painting my paintings. And then Myatt goes, so Drewe goes, I'm going to go to Scotland Yard and I'm going to say I have insider knowledge about a mafia scheme that is peddling fake paintings. So he goes in to Scotland Yard and goes, hey guys, do I have a scoop for you?
Yeah.
I've got some paintings. I've heard that the mafia is selling fake paintings, which is what he's doing, but he's blaming it on the mafia.
Yeah. What?
Just like stay away from the police.
Absolutely. He's almost waving a red flag, just being like, it was me all along.
Yeah, honestly. And the reason why Scotland Yard like kind of was like, we don't believe you was because he turned up in a helicopter to impress them. Mm-hmm. He said, all right, I'm going to tattle on the Italian mafia, but he took the coppers to a restaurant that was really well known as a hang spot for the Italian mafia.
Also, don't mess with the Italian mafia. Why would you bring it to them?
Why would you bring it to... Just say I know some guy who's doing this shit. Not the mafia.
No.
Maybe he thought...
How terrifying.
Oh, you fuck with them.
Yeah.
You're not coming out alive.
No.
Also, don't go to where they hang out to tell on them. Snitches get stitches, mate.
They do.
He's a dummy.
Johnny Loose Lips.
Honestly, get him. Because this happened, they were like, something sus about you, Drewe. Mm-hmm. We don't have anything on you yet, but we're going to start investigating you. In 1994, so this is 4 years after that woman has kind of sounded the alarms.
Yeah.
Drewe had entangled so many people, innocent people in his web as well, because there's dealers, there's people buying these paintings.
Yeah.
Myatt was starting to sense that like, this is going to come to an end. Mm-hmm. I'm out. He's like, he couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. I don't blame.
Yeah, he said he started to see Drewe was starting to put
Drew's flying too close to the sun.
Too close to the sun, Icarus with his wings.
Yeah.
And also Drewe was starting to make him go to like the auctions and stuff and like posing as people. And he's like, I was happy painting.
Yeah, he's getting too far into it and he's just like, no, I need to
step back.
He's done a lot of damage already.
So he wrote to old Drewe and said, hey, I'm done. Mm-hmm. See you later. And so Drewe was like, okay. See ya. Then Myatt's gone. He's gone for a few years. And at this point, an art dealer named Newham was the first person to connect the dots that there's something weird going on here in the art dealership world. Because 3 Ben Nicholson paintings, all with the same provenance, landed on his doorstep really quickly. He was a really well-known art dealer this Newham guy. He had been doing it for years. His reputation was really, really high. And he said, cool. He got the first one. He said, yeah, this looks legit. The provenance all looks good.
Yeah.
So he sold that one. Then he got a second one. He's like, hang on a second. Then he got a third one. He said,
something's fishy.
He said, all of this provenance is exactly the same. Like it's come from the same place, which is really kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
Usually you get bits and pieces from different places.
Random spots.
He's like, also it's all coming really quickly.
Really quick. Like how are they getting here so quick?
Yeah.
Like
so
it would be such a process
to find these paintings. Where like one of them, they were like, it's a charity. It's getting sold for charity. One of them's like, my business is failing. I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
It was obviously different people bringing the paintings in, but he's like, something ain't right here. So he went straight to the authorities and he said, there's this guy named John Drewe. I think he has something to do with it. He's around, I'm just letting you know. Then very soon after that, Scotland Yard received a call from the Tate and they said, hey, us again. Someone's been tampering with our archives. We only just realised.
Oh, come on now. You were told.
Yeah, exactly. We think it might be this guy, John Drewe. And look, if I'm honest, I have no doubt that dealer went to the Tate and said, hey, guys, I check your archives. If you want to dob someone in, this is who I think it is.
This is who you should look at.
Yeah. They went to Scotland Yard. And then, very dramatically, a woman named Bathsheba. She called up and she said, guys, I've got some rubbish bags you might like to look at. Came in with bags full of evidence.
Had they split up?
They were estranged at this point,
okay.
and she was getting revenge.
Yeah.
So she said, hey guys, I've got some news for you.
Yeah.
She literally apparently walked up with like garbage bags full of documents outlining what was happening, all of these old negatives of like photos of these paintings.
Yeah, she had all the
She had it all there. And she said, there you go, you've got your evidence. And they were like, well, cool. This is 8 years of fraud now we've got to investigate. We're going to go knock on some doors.
Yeah.
What they did was they went to the Tate and they uncovered that at least 20 to 30 archives had been tampered with just on the Giametti painter alone.
Yep.
So then the cops go, well, we'll go and talk to Mary Lisa. She seemed to be really on it. They were like, that Palmer girl, get her in. Call her up.
Like, oh, she'd be so pissed.
And 4 years later, she would have been like, I fucking told you so, you bastards. So she went in and she was like, hey guys, yep, these are all the fake ones in the archives. John Myatt's name is within those documents that Bathsheba bought in. And so they were like, cool, we're going to go and raid John Myatt's house.
Yes.
And that's where we started our story.
That's where we began our story.
They take Myatt in and they question him and he pretty easily goes like, yeah, guys.
He sings like a canary.
Pretty much. But
too nervous.
Yeah. He just wanted to be a painter.
Yeah.
Like he just wanted to paint his pretty paintings. Drewe is obviously the mastermind behind this operation. We need to go after him and we need to make sure that like we get as much evidence around him as we can. The damning piece of evidence that made Myatt sing like a canary was literally there was a letter from Myatt to Drewe saying like, I'm out of this con game. Like I'm giving up. Like he's like, fuck, I really gave myself away with that letter. Yeah, you dummy, you did. Don't put it in writing. What is it? Say it. Forget it. Write it, regret it.
Ooh.
That's Housewives, I think. It's a Real Housewives quote, I believe. But at this point, they estimated there's at least 200 fakes out there that he's sold into the market.
Still.
Yeah. So they started to get information on Drewe, really trying to build up a kind of case against him. So he wasn't just selling fake paintings. He wasn't just making them look old. He was also setting up companies offering authentication services. He would be like, I am really good at authenticating like Giametti artworks.
Yeah.
So people would take the fakes and he'd be like, yeah, it's real. Of course it is. So he really had...
He was crossing his T's and dotting his I's. Like honestly, he was spreading himself out around the whole thing. Yeah. So no one would... Well, just more things he can get away with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So people would go, hey, can you just check that this isn't a fake? And he'd be like, no, it looks real to me.
Yeah.
They started monitoring these meetings because now that there was rumors that fakes were out there, people were starting to get all of their art reevaluated.
Yeah, right.
And so they would monitor these meetings, and one of the guys, the $3,000 painting that was bought, and Lisa Palmer said, hey, that was one of the meetings. She was like, hey guys, just so you know, this painting's about to get appraised. And so the coppers were like, cool, we're on it. So they'd listen to the meeting.
Yeah.
And she was like, you dumb bitches. I could have solved this whole thing so much easier.
Oh, so juicy though.
I know. There was so much overwhelming proof. Drewe finally got arrested. And he said, I'm innocent, guys. Don't you worry.
Come on. I'll help you find the real guy.
Yeah. He's like, he adamantly said, no, these are all real paintings the whole time.
Yeah.
Myatt pretty quickly was pretty over this by this point and said, no, I'm going to plead guilty. But Drewe said, you know what? I'm taking this to court. And so he went to court. And it was a 4-month trial. Within the first few weeks of the trial, he said, I'm going to represent myself.
Of course he is, because he's a lawyer now.
He's a lawyer now, yeah. So he decided to fire his entire defense team and represent himself. Myatt said, apparently he was on the stand saying, man, look at us. Look at us. Hey, look at us. We did it. And Drew's like, no, we didn't. So they're talking to each other in court and everyone was like, what the fuck is happening? Like they were having a full conversation.
That's so weird.
Yeah, that
would have been a really great court case to sit in on.
Honestly, if only we had like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard like situation where it was televised.
Oh, that would be so fantastic to watch.
So good. Myatt goes, I'm guilty. He pled out guilty, and I think because he had a little bit of information and he kind of helped with the case, he only spent a year behind bars.
Yeah, I was going to say he did the right thing because, that's what you do. You plead guilty if you're guilty. You help the police out.
And you get a lesser sentence.
Yeah.
And I think
if you stick to your guns and say that I didn't do it, blah, 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 that's just always going to extend your stay in prison.
100%. So he only spent actually, I think 4 years behind bars 4 months behind bars in the end because he pled guilty and he was good behavior, got out. So
good.
Not too bad for old
I'm
Myatt.
happy he got just a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. And Drewe was sentenced to 6 years in jail.
No bail?
No bail, I believe. Sentenced to 6 years because he was the mastermind. They said, yep, this is over. That's that case. But where are they now? Let's find out.
Because this wasn't that long ago. They're probably still around.
Yes. Myatt actually, 5 years after being released, had a full exhibition called Real Fakes.
Cool.
Yeah. So he did now pretty much all he does is real fakes, and he paints for people, and a lot of the
But it's all legit.
because he's not pretending that they're a Picasso. He's just painting it and saying this is a fake Picasso and people are buying it.
Which, I mean, that's that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like
That's a good gimmick.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, hey, I'm a pretty good forger. I fooled people for so long. Now I'm going to sell you a real fake.
And he's semi-famous now too because he was involved in all this stuff.
He would not be a painter.
You're getting a real fake.
Yeah, you're getting a real fake.
From a famous painter.
Fake painter.
Yeah.
So he said it's really funny that he found that he sold a lot of paintings to the police and the judges who worked the case because they all wanted a piece of his artwork.
There you go.
Yeah. That first exhibition that he did sold out so quickly, and he now still does it, and he like teaches other people how to do real fakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Drewe didn't seem to learn his lesson.
I don't think he would.
He committed a few different crimes, but in March of 2012, he was convicted of defrauding a 71-year-old retired music teacher.
Oh, the prick.
Yeah, he took £700,000 of her life savings.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he was jailed for 8 years because of this.
Good.
And the judge said, in my view, you are the most dishonest and devious person I've ever dealt with.
Yeah.
Honestly, we don't actually know the impact this had on the art world. Of the 200 paintings that we know that were forged, only 72 have been found. So there's still so many out there that we think are real.
In galleries or in
galleries, in private collections.
Private collections,
We're not sure. So
it'd be a good TV show. Be a good Ryan Murphy.
Yeah.
Ryan Murphy vehicle.
Ryan Murphy, if you're listening, make it.
Forged. Yeah.
Who would play her?
Emma Roberts. In a mustache.
In a mustache.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho.
Jessica Lange will be in there somewhere.
Oh, she'd be the French woman being like, just
Yes.
believe me. Sarah Paulson's in the background. Ah. She sees the painting, starts weeping. So beautiful. Also, Myatt is he's a bit like, when you watch some of his interviews, you're like, oh, come on, mate. He's like, I'm not going to say which ones are fake or which ones aren't anymore because people believe they're real. So, and I'm like,
just let people know.
no. He's like, but you'd be so disappointed. I'm like, yeah, but I'd like to know.
Yeah. That's a weird secret to keep.
Yeah. And I think as well, we don't actually know now, like they've changed art history. We don't know what's real, what's not anymore. And if they've gotten away with it, who else has?
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't know. They've rewritten art history as we know it to this day.
Real fakes.
Real fake.
That was fascinating.
It's so strange.
And a very entertaining story.
Any thoughts and feelings?
No, I just really it's so interesting how far they went with the art forgery in kind of a modern time. Like we're talking like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And they still managed to get away with so much for so long.
And it was fucking house paint.
And it was house paint and vacuum dust.
Yeah.
Insane.
It sounds fake, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Fun fake.
I loved that. Oh, that was great.
Ooh, well, that's it. That's it for this week's episode.
Woo!
Any parting things you want to say to the team out there?
Not really. I can't wait to sit down with you next time and discuss whatever we're going to talk about next.
Cool. Well, you know where to find us.
So hungry. All I can think about is a parma.
Parma, me too.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go and find one.
Yes.
All right. Well, on that note, enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.